let's continue the look ahead to the BRICS Summit and what it means or could mean for South Africa. We're joined by the CEO of Business Unity, Cas Coovadia. Cas, where do you stand on the issue? Some commentators say there's no economic upside to being part of the BRICS. Others say, of course, there's the huge potential. If we gain some sort of preferential access to the big markets, is there potential?
Yeah, and thanks for having me, and hi to your viewers. There's certainly potential. I mean, since we joined BRICS, if you look at our trade relations with the BRICS countries before we joined, compared to after we joined, there's certainly been an increase in trade between our country and the BRICS countries, although the bulk of it is still negative to us and deficits on trade with all the BRICS countries. And that's because I heard your last speaker toward there, and that's saying that we're not manufacturing enough. We're only exporting raw material and minerals and not value adding. And a lot of that has to do with sorting out some of our internal issues so that we can actually get our economy going. But there's definitely upside. I think that we have to appreciate that we're the smallest of the BRICS nations, and we need to do everything we need to internally to ensure that we firstly are competitive so that we compete effectively with the other BRICS nations, and that we utilize the resources we have in this country to value add and export value added goods and services so that the trade balances improve. I think that also the BRICS conurbation caters for a significant part of trade in the global trade arena currently, and will continue to grow. So I think that there will be upside. We need to ensure that we position ourselves to actually leverage off that upside.
South Africa's chair has moved the focus to the African continent, not only BRICS, and we know many African nations want to join. Do Africans need to trade more with one another first, or is it good to see even the African free trade area in light of a bigger goal to increase South-South trade and have more ties with non-Western countries?
No, Africa does need to trade more with itself. I think we need to improve significantly the intra-African trade, and hopefully the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, once it gets going, will enable us to do that. I think that also enables Africa as a bloc to see how, as a bloc, we have competitive advantages and how we can leverage of competitive advantages in different African countries to improve the ability of the continent to actually trade more effectively with both BRICS countries as well as the West. So absolutely. But I think that we also need to recognize as South Africa that we have a great deal to learn from our compatriots on the continent. There are a number of countries on the continent that are growing well, that are attracting investment, and we need to actually do what we need to internally, and the discussions and work we're doing with the presidency on things like energy, logistics, and transport, and crime and corruption is all about that, to enable us to actually sort out some of our infrastructure challenges, some of our logistics challenges, to get on top of crime and corruption so that we utilize fully the amazing opportunities we have in this country, and then also work with countries in Africa to actually take the continent forward. But right now, we are the laggards to a certain extent, and we need to do all the work we are doing currently to actually ensure that we reposition ourselves on the continent as a country that can actually utilize the opportunities we have. We're still the most diversified economy on the continent. Although we're no longer the largest economy, we're now the third largest economy. But we need to, the opportunities are there, the opportunities to ensure that Africa as a bloc actually starts interacting with trading partners. And I think we can play a role in that.
Kaz, back to the BRICS, the economist from Goldman Sachs who first termed the coin BRIC, I saw that recently he said that the BRICS currency is simply a ridiculous idea because you'd need a central bank. Your response to that? I mean, these are very different countries economically and politically, but could there be other innovations?
Yeah, so I think that we need to be pragmatic about what we can achieve and over what period of time. I think he's absolutely correct. A BRICS currency, you do need a central bank. You do need far more cooperation that we're having currently. And that could be a goal for the future. And that takes time. That would take a couple of decades to actually get into place. I think what we need to do sort of in the short to medium term is enable and encourage those BRICS countries that can actually begin to trade in their own currencies and begin to position their own currencies far more effectively globally, like China, like India to a certain extent. And they should go ahead and do that. And I think that will enable the BRICS conurbation to become stronger because those countries can then actually position themselves far more effectively in the global financial markets. And that's got to be good for BRICS. So let's try to identify doable targets in the next decade or so. Let's differentiate between what different countries in BRICS can do and can achieve in particular periods of time. And then as that happens, let's grow the conurbation as a bloc and start looking at how the BRICS bloc can actually position itself far more effectively in financial, trade and investment markets.
Quick final question. This is also about South Africa's ability to host big events and keep everybody, including many heads of state, safe. It looked good today. Are you optimistic this is going to go extremely well?
Yeah, no, we've got a history of hosting good big events and doing very well at hosting big events, and we should be proud of that. I was at Gallagher Estate earlier today, going very well there. I'm sure the heads of states meetings during the course of next week will also go very well. I think that we're pretty good at this. I think we pull out all the stops in ensuring successful events. We've done significantly large global events and we've had heads of state in this country before and manage all of that very well, the security and others very well. So yeah, I'm sure it will go pretty well. I have no doubt about that. There's nothing that says otherwise, and let's do ourselves proud.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Cas Coovadia, the CEO of Business Unity South Africa.